but within my dissertation, I kind of come up with a new term called racial realities. And so I kind of use these two terms to contrast each other. So as Vanilla Silva and others talk about racial stories as a way to oppress, keep down, discriminate, racial realities are a way for us to rewrite our history and rewrite our stories and what is the truth and what's actually factual. And I think that's really relevant today with the anti-DEI, anti-wokeness, the erasure of Black American history, and the entire idea that we aren't a part of American history and that it can be rewritten to fit the ideals of others. And so those are racial stories. Those are myths. Those are things that did not happen, did not exist, or are extorted and edited in a way to fit a particular group. It's not what actually happened, which would be racial realities.
The wildness of the proposition, like racism exists, but it's not a barrier you can't overcome because these systems work in tandem together. And so when you consider the idea that we are all entrenched in a capitalist system that fuels the white supremacy, and the government is made to work in tandem with the white supremacy and to fuel the white supremacy. And so then you have all of these things playing on each other. It is not a barrier you can overcome. You either have to reconstruct it, which is what for a brief moment in history we tried to do, or you have to exist within it. Those are the only two options. You either have to exist entrenched in the system, or you have to reconstruct the system.
I was lighting my match. Did you see me light?
Yes, burn it down. Yes, that was a sound effect that I got. I did understand that one.
So we're trying to sit here and compare the grandchildren of slaves with, and expecting my grandma in South Carolina, where her grandmother was enslaved, to compete at the same level economically, to have the same amount of money economically as someone who has enough money to immigrate over to this country. Because again, I worked in study abroad for a while. You have to show you've got a certain amount to immigrate. Now, if you're coming as a refugee, that's different. Whole nother story over there. If you're coming as a refugee, but if you're just applying straight for, a work visa or a student visa, you do have to show bank account information. And so if we look historically, of course, there's going to be differences among groups. If one group 30 years ago was sharecropping and the other group has already more money in. So then now we think about, okay, well, now we're looking at the grandchildren, the next generation. So my generation, for example. And again, we know wealth is accumulated. We also know that poverty is accumulated and passed on generationally. So now if we're going to look contemporaneously, we can see that kind of history and that trajectory of how we all got to where we are. And so we all started at different places and therefore we're at different places.